Hi everyone, welcome back to the Nature Patch. My name is Robyn and thank you so much for joining in on another video. Today I wanted to do kind of a shorter video just to chat about one of my all-time favourite things that I like to use in the garden, and that is coffee grounds. If you have seen a lot of my past videos, you'll know that I really do like to walk around with a cup of tea or coffee, hence one that I have here right now. I love to drink coffee, I just love the taste, and the process of making coffee in the morning is something that brings me a lot of joy. It also brings a lot of other people joy who I live with. So we go through quite a lot of coffee grounds in our household, and I like to use them in the garden. So in today's video, I'm going to be just chatting through 4 different ways that I like to use coffee grounds in the garden. But first of all, I'm actually going to test the pH of the coffee grounds that I have, just to get an idea of what kind of pH we're dealing with, whether it's alkaline or acidic. I hear a lot of people say, don't use coffee grounds, it's going to be too acidic, it's going to wreck your garden. But I have been using coffee grounds for years now, and I personally would like to know kind of what the pH is and whether I have actually been wrecking my garden or not. Which I don't think I have, but we'll see. Make sure you do grab a cup of tea or coffee. I'm actually drinking some sleepy time tea, which is the very opposite of coffee. Coffee is my morning time routine, and I like to have a herbal tea in the afternoon. So I'll link this one that I'm drinking today in the description box below as well. But let me know what tea or coffee you're also drinking in this video. So I am an environmental scientist by trade, and doing little experiments in the garden really feeds my love of science and understanding things. I have used the really high-tech pH testing kits, lab work, you name it. I have really done it on a large scale for mine sites. But for the garden, I really can't go past this soil test kit that you get from Bunnings. I'll put a link in the description of this particular one here. It's pretty cheap and it generally does the job. You're not really going to get too much better than this unless you send your soil away and actually get it professionally tested in labs. But this one here comes with everything that you need to do a pH test. It's got some barium sulfate and a dye indicator. These are the 2 main things that you'll want to use for your pH testing. And then also a chart to tell you what kind of pH it is, whether it is acidic or alkaline. The higher the pH, the more alkaline, and the lower the pH, the more acidic it is. 7 is usually where plants can obtain the most nutrients as well. The higher it goes and the lower it goes away from 7, your plants start to not be able to uptake as much nutrients as they would when it's more neutral level. So we want to have it around neutral, and I'm going to see what these coffee grounds are here. So I'll angle you down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So what you'll need for this is just something white, and this is so that you can see what color it ends up turning. Your coffee grounds, which I'm just going to add a little bit into the bowl here. You're also just going to need something to stir it with, and then all you do is you add some of the dye indicator onto whatever soil or medium that you're testing. And what you want to do here is technically kind of make a paste with it. So not too thin, not too thick, just so that it starts to clump together a little bit. Already weirdly starting to go green. I don't know if I've done something wrong here. Once you've stirred that dye indicator, push it all into the center, and then you just want to sprinkle the powder over the top. I usually leave it for about 30 seconds or so, but really instantly it will end up changing color. And you can kind of see here that it's going a really light green, which on this chart matches up to one of these ones here. Personally, I would probably say that it is looking like a 5.5 to a 5, which is acidic. So you're all right out there when you say coffee grounds are acidic, or at least this particular coffee ground here is. So this is really awesome to know that the coffee grounds I'm using is more acidic, and I should be wary of that before I put it around any plants. So now I'm going to run through the 4 different ways that I do use coffee grounds. The acidity level of these coffee grounds isn't going to really impact the plants too much. Along with being slightly acidic, it also has so many other different benefits to it. The main thing is that coffee is really high in nitrogen, which is something that your plants absolutely need to survive. But it's also good just to keep in mind that acidity. And one of the ways to completely not worry about all this pH and acidity and all of those kinds of issues is to actually put it through a compost system, which is the first way I really like to use coffee grounds. And this includes using coffee grounds in large compost bins that I have, where those are really slow composts. They sit there over time, over the span of at least 6 months or so, to really break down. Or one of the other ways that I really like to compost coffee grounds is through my worm farm. My worms always get their morning coffee every few days, and they absolutely love it. It creates some of the best worm castings that I have ever used, but keeping in mind that you can have too much of a good thing. So I usually sprinkle those coffee grounds over food scraps or anything else that I'm adding to my worm farm, just to kind of keep that balance. Coffee grounds are also a really great grit for worms that they use to pass through their system to continue making their worm castings. Another way I really like to use coffee grounds is I add it as a mulch to some of my plants. This is usually the amount of coffee grounds that I have on any particular time when I'm going into the garden. So I'm not getting these massive bags from cafes like some people do, in which case then you kind of need to think about how and where you're putting it in the garden. As a smaller scale gardener, I really like to actually use this on top of sugarcane mulch and fluff it into the mulch. I know it sounds weird, but it actually creates such an awesome environment for worms to move through the mulch to keep breaking it down, and the plants seem to really love it. Every time it rains or water goes into this system, the coffee grounds and the nitrogen leaches into the soil here and provides more nutrients into the soil. So yes, it is acidic, but the amount of what I'm actually adding here is just so small. So it's really not going to massively change the overall pH of this system. We're losing light here, so I'm going to speed up the last two ways I like to use coffee grounds. The third way is I actually like to dilute it in water when I'm watering some of the plants. That ensures that only a small amount is getting watered in to the soil and around the plants. And I like to do this on specific plants that also like a bit more of acid soils. So plants like tomatoes, when they're flowering, will like a really good kind of feed of some coffee grounds, and also blueberry bushes. So I have quite a few blueberry bushes in pots around here, and I like to just pour some coffee grounds into a watering can. If you are doing this, make sure that you do take the top off the watering can though, just because you may end up with a very clogged watering can if you're pouring coffee grounds through that system. And then the last way is I actually like to add it into my potting mix when I'm potting up plants. Usually I am doing this for things that really don't mind a little bit more acidic soils, so things like greens and spinach, when I'm potting up the blueberry plants and also tomatoes. And I just add that into the potting mix because it's such a fine material. It's going to break down really easily and kind of just compost in that mixture while also providing really great nitrogen for that plant. And when I say I add a little bit, it's usually just a handful here and there into whatever potting mix I'm using as well. So I hope you found this video useful. Thank goodness that my coffee grounds weren't actually super acidic, or else I would have looked like a fool telling you should be using it on your garden. But I am learning every single day, and thankfully these coffee grounds are just awesome to use on the garden. They're not going to overall destroy all of my food crops. Let me know if you use coffee grounds in the garden and how you like to use them, and make sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for lots more garden content. Thanks for watching, and until my next video, happy gardening everyone. Bye.